Okay, now for the bracelet. What I usually do when I make my links is I usually cut off about 4 inches of wire, okay, for each link. Sometimes a little bit more, just depending on, you know, what you're gonna do, because you need that extra wire to do your loops. At the end, you know, you need some wire to hang on to. It's really hard to make those end loops if you don't have wire to hold on to. So I'm gonna start by start putting my pliers right in the middle. I'm going to bring you in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to put my pliers right in the middle of it, as close as I can get. If you really want to measure, you can. I don't want to measure. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. The nice thing about this piece, the bracelet and the necklace, is that they're more organic looking. They're not absolutely perfect, which I find is fine. And then you start bending the wire around your plier. Okay, so you just start bending it around, making a little spiral. And always work a little bit at a time with each side. Okay. Kind of keep it I'm not going to make this spiral really, really big because I only have about 1.5 inches of wire left to work with. So I am going to leave it at that. Okay. So that's a little spiral in there. I think that looks really pretty. And then I'm going to bend this up. Again, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect where you decide to bend it. As long as it's pretty close to the middle. That's where I usually grab it to bend it. Okay, so that it sits like that. Okay, that's what it should look like. Now you can add some beads. So I'm going to add a little spacer bead, a bead cap, if I can get it to go on there. One of my blue beads. So I've got that on my necklace, so you want to keep that on there. And probably another spacer bead, one of those square ones that I have. So it kind of looks like that. And then I'm going to do my loop. I'm going to keep the loops the same as what I did my necklace with, and I'm going to put it on the second mark that I made on my pliers, and I'm going to bend that over like that. Okay, same as we did with the necklace. Okay, bring it back, you make your loop, move your plier, bring it back around, and now you've got some room to make your loop. Now I'm using 20 gauge wire. I used 18 gauge with my last piece, but you can use 20 gauge because these are going to be links. They're not going to be like the full, you know, full one piece of wire in there. So, okay. So I did 3 loops around there. I'm going to cut this one off, taking care not to let it fly into my eye or anybody else that might be around me. And I'm just going to press it down so that it's hidden away kind of underneath the width of your bead. And that way it won't hurt anybody. And there you've got your first little link done. Okay, with your bead. Your loop is here, your beads, your little twirly there, and then on this side you can add any bead you want. I'm going to go with a different bead. Okay, so I'm going to put, let me see here, what do I got? I'm going to put maybe one, oh, I'm going to put one of these. I'm going to put one of these on here. Okay. And then again, do your loop. Okay, now we have a little bit much on this one, but that's okay. Gives you lots to work with, especially when you work with like 18 gauge or 16 gauge wire. It can be very difficult to do these loops if you don't have enough wire to work with. So I'm going to take this one off, cut it off there. I'm going to press this one down so that it is lower than the width of that bead, and that way no spark, nothing touches the wearer for sharpness. Go slow, you don't have to go fast with this. Okay, just make sure it's pressed in there. There. And there's our first little link to our bracelet. I'm going to do that again, and I'll show you the smaller link that I do. So for this smaller link, I don't use quite as big a piece. So the piece that I'm going to cut for this one here will be about 3 inches. Okay, so it's about 3 inches there. I found this little heart bead, so we're going to use that. That was in that bag that I had. So before I do that, I'm going to make my loop. So again, about 1 inch up. Okay, press it down, press it around. I'm going to go around as many times as I can. Even 20 gauge wire can be hard to press around once you get to this point. It gets even tough itself. It's hard on the fingers. So I'm just going to use my pliers, press it down the rest of the way because I want 3 loops in there. I want to keep everything pretty close to what we did the necklace. I think I did about 3 on there as well. But you want to keep everything pretty much the same, each link the same. And there's the loop made. Okay. Now I'm going to put these beads on here. Like that. What I do to make my bracelets stronger is, instead of adding jump rings, I just link this one as I'm doing the loop into the last link that I made. So we're going to make a link opposite to what this one is. Okay, so this link is going this way. This one here, you want it to go this way, all right? So basically what we want to do is make this link is sitting this way. This link is going to be sitting this way. You want them to be opposite to what each other is, otherwise the bracelet's not going to sit properly on your wrist, okay? So I'm going to make my loop opposite direction of what I did to this one, with this one, okay? See that? All right. Make sure it's on the second mark that you made on your, if you have a mark on your pliers. Okay, and I'm going to pull it around till I get to this point. At this point, I want to bring the other loop in here, okay, and put it on there. Then I'm going to hold it again. Okay, and pull this wire around. And then you make your 3 little loops. You cut it off. And then you press this one down. Just be careful because some of these beads that I have here, glass, I'm sure you're going to have the same type. Just go gently, okay? And there is the first part of the bracelet done. And what I like about this bracelet, what I like about this technique is that there's no jump rings. So honestly, this is never gonna come apart. It's not gonna come apart. So now we're gonna do our next one. So I think I'll do another big one. Like I'll do another little bit longer one and show you the square. So I'm gonna take about 4 inches again with this one, approximately. I rarely measure unless I really want it to be very, very close. But most of my pieces are organic and I like that they are organic. So I'm going to start in the middle again with a square plier. So as you can see, these pliers are more square here. Okay. And I'm going to bend it. Like that. And I'm just going to go around the plier like that. Kind of gives it a more elongated look. I'm going to straighten them back up again. Okay. Then I'm going to bring my plier out a little bit, pretty much even with this little loop here. Even with that loop, and then just bend it. Okay, same with this one. Even with that loop next to it, and then just bend it. And then just keep going. You can do as many of these as you want. It's totally up to you, but I mean, this one here actually looks really neat. I like the more square look. I like the way this one turned out with a more square type of structure. I think that looks really nice. Okay, that's as far as I want to go with that. And then I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to kind of gauge what's the middle. Okay, maybe right about there. Approximately the middle. It doesn't have to be perfect, like I said. And just bend it up. And do the same on the other side. Okay, and that's kind of what it should look like there. And then from here on, you just add the beads you want to put on there. I did put one of these on the necklace that we have. So I'm going to put that one, a couple of spacer beads. Oh, that looks nice. Yeah, let's do that. That looks pretty. And I'm going to do my loop. Then we're going to add another bead here. Okay, then bend it. And then you add it to the next link you want to add it to. Then just cut off the excess. Bend this extra piece down. And there is our bracelet. Piece is being made. Now while you're making this, you want to keep track of how long it is actually getting. So this here is already 4.5 inches. So I'm going to start bending it in the shape that I want it to be. So I'm just going to bend it a little bit. Okay, so it's already starting to take shape. We're going to add another link to the bracelet and keep going. I'm going to use this clasp. This is also from Bargain Bead Box. I'm going to make myself a little loop that will hold each of them. Okay. So with these loops, now I've cut off approximately 1.5 to 2 inches of wire. I would suggest 2 to 2.5 if you're a little more comfortable, if you need a little more to work with. Okay, so I'm going to go approximately 1 inch in on the one side. So there's a little bit more on this side, a little bit less on this side. Okay, so you can see that's really short. That's okay. I'm going to put my loop on here. Okay, so it's like that. And for around here, I'm just going to do 2. So there's a front and a back to this clasp. Okay, so this is how it's going to sit. So I've put my clasp on so that it'll sit like this. So just double check, make sure that you got that right before you actually clasp it in. You don't want to do that. So mine's right. Okay. I'm just going to use 2 jump rings. 2 is better than 1, just keeps it a little more secure. If you have 18 gauge wire and you're using 18 gauge wire, this is how you would do the hook that I did for the silver ones. This is just a spare piece of wire that I was playing around with. So let's just say this is the end part of your bracelet, okay? And you want to put on that hook that I made with the other one. So you're going to do the same thing as you usually do for each end of your loop or link. So about 1 inch, maybe a little bit more. Okay. Actually, you can put a little bit less, doesn't matter. I'm again using the same mark. That's the second one in that I normally do, that I normally have been using for this whole set. And you bend it back. Okay. Then continue on that mark, bend it forward. So I'm still at my mark, as you can see there, if you can see the mark. Okay, there. Now I've got that part made. Now I'm going to hook it on to what would be the end of my bracelet. Okay, so I'm going to hook it on there. And this is where your bracelet becomes, you know, you're not going to break it. You're not going to, it's not going to snap apart. When you do the ending loops like this, they don't come apart. Even with 20 gauge, you can loop it like that. The only problem is the hook part is not going to be strong. So that's why I always use 18 gauge or higher. Okay. So now I'm just going to make my loops, and I've been doing 3 pretty much through this whole set. So I'm going to do 3. And as you can see, they're a little bit wide. Don't want them that wide, so that's okay. I'm going to take my flat nose pliers and I'm going to squish them together. This works really nice with 18 gauge wire. It is so much stronger. But I'm going to push these 2 together. Go gentle. There. Okay. Now I'm going to hold this, and I'm going to do 1 more loop because I want 3 on there. Because I'm a right-handed person, I gotta switch my hands over here. Okay. Now I'm just gonna do 1 more loop. Okay, bring it around gently. You don't want to scratch this wire. And like I just did there, that's just the ending though, it's okay. My dog's crying to get in here. I don't know if you can hear her, but she's over on the other side like, why you got the door closed? Okay. Now I'm just going to take and cut that end piece right off there. Okay. Then I'm going to bend that in a little bit. You want to always bend that in so that it's not gonna scratch anybody when they wear the bracelet, or yourself if you're making it for you. Now is the time we make the hook. So it depends on what type, you know, how big you want your hook, how small you want your hook. I don't like mine to be overly big, my hooks. So I'm just gonna bend this right at the base here. Okay, I'm gonna bend it. I'm going to bend it out a little bit like that. So I'm just going to make a couple of little zigzags because I thought that was really cool with the other one that I did the little zigzags. I just thought that it brought a kind of an interesting look to the whole piece. So you just take your pliers and you bend it however you want, you know, just depending on how you want it to look. Be creative. Don't be afraid to do something different. Okay, then you just decide where you want, you know, just take it wherever you want to. If you want it out more a little bit, you want it in more, it doesn't matter. Now I'm going to take this one. This is going to be the bend for my actual clasp, like for my actual hook. So like that. Then to decide how big you want your hook to be. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as long as the bracelet's not going to be too big. I would measure the bracelet and just see how much longer you want your bracelet to be, and then keep this within that measurement. So if it's 2 inches from here to over here, keep it within the 2 inches. I'm going to make a little square, like that. I'm just going to push this a little bit more. I like to have this piece straight and then have a piece sticking out just a little bit. So I'm going to do that first before I cut this. So I'm going to go about there. It's about halfway down. And I'm just gonna bend this out just a little, so like that. Okay, and then just cut your end piece about a little more than a centimeter. And that's your unusual looking little clasp. Now if you want, just take your, if you have a file maybe, just file that so it's, you know, smoother. I have one of these, I can't remember what they're called now. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, I don't even know what it's called. And it's got a little file in there. So you can put it in here. It's just a little bit easier to file that off. You want it to be smooth.